Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo rant. It feels like ages since I last did a Kendo rant show, and that's because last week, the week before, we had a bit of trouble. We missed the show 2 weeks ago, which meant that week's show was put back to last week. So I actually missed a week. So yeah, some issues with YouTube there with it processing the video footage and stuff like that. Got it resolved, but yeah, sorry for that. I know we've had a bit of a 2-week gap with getting some of these questions in. We've got some fantastic questions today though. Really looking forward to getting stuck into them. We'll have a look at them in just a second. But before we do, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. Haven't said it in a while, but there's a bell on YouTube. When you click subscribe, a little bell appears. That's called the Kendo bell. And when you ring that, you get better at Kendo. If you're new to the channel, I've probably not said it since you've been watching, because I haven't said it in a few months. But when you ring that bell after you click subscribe, you start to improve at Kendo. So go and do that. And most importantly, if you do like the videos that I'm putting out all the time, and I do have more videos on the way. I'm going to be bringing some more instructional content soon, analysis videos, stuff like that. Not just these Kendo rants. I know it's just been Kendo rants recently, but I will be starting to diversify that again going forward very, very soon. If you like all that, don't forget to support me, support the channel, and help me support everything by shopping at kendostar.com. That's my website, of course. It sells amazing, wonderful Kendo equipment. So yeah, it's win-win. You support the channel, you get amazing Kendo equipment, and yeah, everybody's happy. That's kendostar.com. So I've got some severe allergies happening today. We've got some crazy weather here in the UK where it's really sunny, really warm, by British standards. So yeah, if I'm looking all sort of red-faced and puffy, that's why. Let's get into these questions. Hi Andy, I wear glasses and I can't really put in contacts. Can I get a mend that fits over my glasses? I can't really see anything at all without them. So yeah, there's a couple of ways around this. What most people do though is, if you've got narrow glasses, actually they'll fit inside the men without any real adjustments. Or you can get sports glasses, like ones that, you know, people use for other sports with prescription lenses. And we even have a glasses frame on Kendo Star that you can use with the men without any adjustments or anything. You just get the frames and then you get your optometrist to put lenses in for you, and you can wear them. And then of course the final option is you can have a men custom made. If you must wear the glasses that you've got, you can have a men that's sort of custom made if they are a little bit wider than would fit inside the men as it is, and we can adjust the inside of the uchiwa, the part that goes around the face, to accommodate the glasses frames. All right, so there's lots of options for you. Okay, so don't worry too much. It's quite a common thing. The most common solution is the Kendo glasses frames though. So yeah. Hi Andy, thank you very much for all the content you put out there. I really appreciate it. I have 2 questions. Thank you. Okay, one, in this video, particularly around the 6.33, the Korean players are pushing really hard. At moments it seems almost kind of fighting even dirty moves like holding the opponent's shin out with the elbow, that kind of thing. I wonder why they're not given a hand sucker. Could you shed some light? So the video you posted is from the World Championships a few years ago that was held in South Korea, from the final between Korea and Japan. I've done a bit of an analysis on that video from around that time, so you might want to watch that. Look, I can't really comment on why they weren't given this or why they were given that or anything like that, because that's the discretion of the Shimpan team on the day that were there and witnessing it in the whole context of the entire situation. So I'm not really going to be able to comment and just look at a video and say, well, that should have been this, or that should have been that, especially as it's not me that's there making that decision. So I don't really want to say one way or another on that, because I don't think that I don't think I'm really qualified, having not had that, you know, not coming from that point of view. So yeah, look, sometimes Kendo gets a bit rough, especially at high levels. And there is a fine line that players skate along, and there's, because we use human shimpan rather than robotic ones or videos or stuff like that, which I think is a good thing, and I want it to stay that way. But because we use human shimpan judges to decide to administrate the outcome of Shiai, another factor of that is their interpretation of the situation and how they decide to call it. So you might find that there's a borderline situation and one team of Shimpan will rule it differently to another, and that's perfectly fine, and neither of them are wrong in doing so. All right, so some people might not agree with that decision, some people might not agree with the other decision. That's fine, but that's why we use experienced Shimpan. And you know, it's not that it's not supposed to be the same outcome every time, but it's part of it's a kind of byproduct of us using the human judgment in those sort of situations. All right. So yeah, that's all I can really say on that. I know it's not really the answer you might want, but another set of Shimpan might well have given Hansoku, and another might have kept it the same as it was. All right. So and neither would be wrong in doing so. They're all acting within the rights that they've got. Okay, and number 2 is, I've practiced Kendo in the past, like 15 years ago, and now I'm back. I'm 40 now. I'm focusing on developing qualities other than just the physical ones. Okay, my question is if the competition aspect is essential to the development of Kendoka, or in any case, how important it is. Yeah, it is important. Yeah, it is important. If I'm honest, there's sort of four pillars of Kendo that you have to consider. That I think are all the kind of the cornerstones, shall we say, even of Kendo. One is Keiko, practice. One is Shiai, that's competition. One is Shinsa, so grading. Another is Kata. This is my opinion, right? So all of these have to be part of your Kendo experience, and obviously the degree of which each one of those is for each person is different, but there has to be some level of participation in all of those if you want to have the full Kendo experience and to benefit from it in its entirety. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go to every tournament. You might not. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a tournament. All right. It just means that, you know, you have to have some experience of that sort of shiai, that competitive element of Kendo. You can't fully experience Kendo without ever experiencing that, not knowing what it's like to have the victory and defeat on the line. Just like you can't properly benefit from Kendo without experiencing the risk of failure of the grading. And you can't properly benefit from Kendo without ever touching a Bokuto and ever doing kata. And of course, you have to do loads of keiko, kirikaeshi, uchikomi, and that sort of thing. So yeah, you do need to do it. It doesn't mean you have to win. Yeah, you have to try and win. You have to try your best to win. But like, you have to participate at least a little bit if you really want to not achieve, but if you want to benefit from what everything that Kendo has to offer. Okay. Next one, the purpose of Kendo was expressed in writing by the All Japan Kendo Federation back in 1975, and while the greatest proportion of Kendo practitioners worldwide are Japanese, there are supposedly 6 million practitioners worldwide. Cool. Do you think the original purpose of Kendo is still relevant nearly 50 years later? Would you please explain your answer? Apologies for making it sound a bit like an exam question. Okay, good. That's a good question. So here I've got my official guide to Kendo instruction, available on kendostar.com, and on here, page 7 in this book, there is the purpose and the concept of Kendo. So it's the concept of, I'll read it out. Okay, the concept of Kendo, all right, which isn't what your question is the concept of Kendo is to discipline the human character through the application of the principles of the katana. Okay, Japanese sword. that's quite key that it says the application of the principles, by the way. All right. Anyway, that's a whole different kettle of fish. The purpose of practicing kendo, okay? Kendo no shuren no kokoro gamae, it's called in Japanese, which is what your question is asking. The purpose of practicing kendo is, now everyone's, it's definitely worth reading this every now and again. The purpose of practicing kendo is to mold the mind and body, to cultivate a vigorous spirit, and through correct and rigid training to strive for improvement in the art of kendo. To hold in esteem human courtesy and honor, to associate with others with sincerity, and to forever pursue the cultivation of oneself. This will make one be able to love his or her country and society, to contribute to the development of culture, and to promote peace and prosperity among all people. Established in March 20th, 1975. So, yeah, I absolutely think that the relevance of that purpose of kendo is there. It's definitely relevant, and it's probably more relevant now than it ever was. I think there's some key points. Of course, you've got to mold your mind and body and cultivate a vigorous spirit, okay, so that you can become an upstanding member of society that contributes to culture, and is a particular one is to hold in esteem human courtesy and honor, and to associate with others with sincerity. And I think a lot of modern society works against some of those things. I don't want to go too controversial, but things that like and certainly over the last year and a half, we've seen a very difficult, trying time for lots of people, and lots of things have become very divisive. I've even seen it in the kendo community, where people are falling out and arguing, and it's the onset of things like the internet and social media don't always contribute well to that. Especially this point of, like I say, to associate with others with sincerity, and to forever pursue the cultivation of oneself. And even the next bit where it says this will make you able to love your country and society, what that means is, to really care about everybody around you, not just the people, definitely the people, but the society as a whole. It means, like, obviously basic stuff like caring for stuff that is what do you say, like shared spaces and stuff, and it's something I've noticed a lot since I came back to the UK. That's a big difference from Japan. If you've ever been to Japan, a lot of people probably agree with me on this, but things like shared spaces, public spaces, are cared for somewhat differently, shall we say. And I've done that video about how kendo can help you become a better person, and I think it's intrinsically linked to this. I don't think that's the right word, intrinsically. There, that means something else, but I think it's inseparable from this. So yeah, it definitely is relevant. Like I say, and before I finish this question, but even recently I've seen on some of the kendo forums online, or like on the Facebook groups and stuff like that, people being really divisive, and it's this is really important, where it says associate others with sincerity. And what I feel like is, in the modern world at least, is, and I don't, I'm not saying it was any better in the past, it might not have been, but I think the internet and social media exacerbates a lot of problems, is that we often have this tendency to decide that someone with a different opinion on a specific subject to ourselves is therefore a bad person, and I don't think that holding a view like that, it could be politics, it could be anything else, it could be, and there are things I don't talk about on this channel, as you know, but it could be politics, could be their thoughts on it could be football teams, it could be or soccer teams if you're from another country. It could be anything like that. And it's like, well, if you don't agree with me on that, it equals you're a bad person. And I don't think that that is a healthy mindset to have. I think in general, people are good. And I think most people want the best for everybody, not just for themselves. And I think, obviously, we have to engage with others with empathy and understanding, and as it says, associate others with sincerity. And I think Kendo helps us do that by allowing us to expose ourselves to rigorous training, as it says, whilst we cultivate our mind, body, and a vigorous spirit. And engage in what could be described by other people as acts of violence towards each other, whilst also holding in great kind of esteem the concept of day and manners, and still treating each other with respect and sincerity, even in difficult times in the dojo. And I think that helps us grow as people, so that we can associate with others in a more humane and a more empathetic way. Okay, so I think that the purpose of practicing Kendo is extremely relevant. Yeah, and yeah, there's loads in it that I think is good, to be honest, and I really think that it needs more attention paid to it. I don't think we spend enough time caring about the purpose of practicing Kendo. Next one. Hi, Andy. Beginner's course recently finished. Tonight was the first time in smelly club armor. All the gear fitted fine with the exception of the men. Yeah, often the case. They gave me two choices to try on, a smaller one and a bigger one. I went with the bigger one first, but felt more comfortable with the smaller one. The monomi on both was correct, but both men hurt my ears. I pulled the men daddy to make the mount for the shape, but it still hurt. I asked some other new guys if theirs hurt their ears too, but they said no. Is it normal? Look, it's kind of normal, but what it probably is probably one of two things. One, the men is probably fitting you really bad, and that's not helping. But it's probably to do with how you're tying the men. All right, so you're probably going to experience this sort of discomfort whilst you get used to tying the men properly. What I probably recommend is next time you tie it, maybe mention to your teacher, just say, oh, especially if it starts to hurt, just say, oh, I'm feeling a lot of pain or pressure on my ears. Is there some way that I'm doing this wrong, or something like that? Or is there something you can do to help me? And they might be able to give you help. It's hard for me to do that, obviously, without seeing it, but I'm sure it's something like that. Okay. Okay, next one. You said in your last video that you feel Hikiwaza and Waza from Tsubazeriai are under practiced. What's your favorite Hikiwaza to practice, and which do you think is the most important? I personally like Taiatari Hikido. What about you? Yeah, I did say I think that Hikiwaza is under practiced, and it definitely is under practiced, and it's an important element of Kendo, in my opinion. I don't know if I have the favorite Hikiwaza to practice. I like practicing Hikimen. I like doing Hikimen and Shiai. I use it quite a lot. But I can't say which is more important. You can't have one with Hikigo Day is the least important, if I'm honest. Because it's harder to do. It's harder to do well. It's harder to score Ippon with if you're doing it in Shiai. And you can do really well just with a good Hikido and a good Hikimen, because the opponent can't really defend both. Especially if you can do Gakudo as well. So, yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't really have one that's most important, but you need to definitely sharpen up your Hikimen and your Hikido and Hikigakudo as well. So yeah. Next one. Do you have any cross-training activities that you like Mr. Miyagi's wax on, wax off, fly fishing for tenuchi, or kids' scooters for ashitavaki? How do you do Kendo without Kendo? There's a really awesome YouTube channel called The Kendo Show, and you should watch that. And then there's a bell when you click subscribe, that if you click that, you get better at Kendo. It's called the Kendo Bell. In all seriousness, seriously though, No, I don't have anything like that. But I do think that Mitori Geiko, watching Kendo, is the best thing you can do when you're not at Kendo to improve your Kendo. So, you know, especially watch, see if you can try and get like some high level practice videos, people like high level practitioners practicing, and try and form an image in your head of what they're doing, and try and, if you can, get a video of you doing it as well, and then compare it, and then see if you can kind of get yours to look more like what you've seen in the video. I definitely think you'll benefit most from that. I think that's the most beneficial thing anyone can do outside of Kendo. When attacking Kote after the impact, is it correct to retract the shinai or to stretch the arms and press them to the contrary? Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Very polite. Thank you very much. So after you hit Kote, okay, you shouldn't retract the arms this way. Kote, as you often see, yeah? Kote, you often see this one, right? But also you shouldn't stretch the arms necessarily, Kote, like this either, okay? When you hit Kote this way, and then the shinai goes off to your left over their right shoulder as you go forward, and end at sort of Tsubazeriai, Taiatari type distance, okay? Kote this way. Kote this way. Yeah, don't stretch though, yeah? Naturally, strike and let it go to the left, your left, all right? What you don't want to do is hit and then try to scoop back round to Tsubazeriai, all right? You hit, let it go over the right shoulder as you close the distance, and then if that's not Ippon, then you can move to Tsubazeriai, okay? Next one. Would you ever do an offer where you could mix shinai types within the same order? For example, if I need 2 Jordan specialist shinai and a standard one, as opposed to having to buy 2 packs of 3, for example. Yeah, so I used to do this. On Kendo Star. We used to have this sort of mix and match kind of product. I would consider doing it again, and I will look into doing it again, but there's a couple of problems. One, it's a bit of a nightmare in terms of stock control, because as you probably noticed, we either sell shinai mainly, we sell single shinai, but we also sell them in groups of packs of 3 and packs of 10, and if you buy them in either of those, you'll find you get a discount, and that's due to the way we actually bring them in, you know, the way we actually stock them in those quantities. So it's a bit difficult for me to start mixing and matching. It's not impossible, and it's something that we can deal with, but it is a headache. More importantly, it's a little bit more difficult to get it to work well in a user-friendly way through our website, and that has pricing that works well as well. But we can do it, you know, if there's something like that you want, if you fire us an email, we can set something up for you. That's not a problem. It's just it's difficult to make it user-friendly on the website, because the problem is like, if it's not user-friendly, if it doesn't work well, then my customer service team ends up spending a lot more time responding to emails about stuff that is, you know, that should be straightforward, because it should be user-friendly on the website, and if it's not user-friendly on the website, people get confused and they email us, and then, you know, why isn't it sort of more user-friendly? And you get that, I understand that, so I don't want it to be a difficult process, so I need to figure that out as well, and talk with our sort of team on that and how we can improve that. But it's something I won't rule out, okay? So if that's something people would like to see, let me know in the comments below, and we'll probably spend a bit more time looking into it, okay? Next one. What's your favorite or one of your favorite Kendo memories? Wow, that's a difficult one. I've got so many. Well, all right. I've got a couple. Obviously, I'm not going to say things like meeting my wife and stuff like that, because that wasn't strictly like a Kendo memory. I mean, we met at Kendo, but it wasn't like, you know. I would say the two, my two favorites, which I can't really put one above the other. The first was when I first went to first went to train in Japan properly, and I spent a month at a high school there, a top level high school. I'm not going to drop the name, but a top level high school, let's say. And it, like, basically I nearly died. At least that's what I felt like. You know, training for like a month, and that was my first proper exposure to like hardcore Japanese Kendo. Which was, at the time, it wasn't my favorite, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It wasn't like it was fun. It was horrible. It was hell. But I look back on it with fondness now, and I'm happy to have had that experience. And then the second one, which is probably, if I had to choose between the two, it would be this one, was when I was very lucky to be able to spend a week in Los Angeles, and I was able to be welcomed very graciously by the US team for a week, and I joined them for practice for a week, and what a wonderful set of people, what a wonderful Kendo experience it was. And again, I didn't enjoy every minute of it, I've got to say. There was some really difficult really difficult keiko there that took me back to the time of the high school, but it was just a wonderful experience all round. Everyone was so wonderful, really welcoming, really nice, really strong, really great keiko, really great times, and I'd love to, you know, I'd love to do that again. So yeah, they're my probably two favorites, but I've got so many, it's hard to pick just some. All right, so I've had loads that are brilliant. Next one. Hi, Sensei. What's the difference between Taiatari and Tsubazeriai? Good question. Also, I know we're back at training again now, but are you planning to do any more Zoom classes? Okay. So Taiatari is a body crash. All right. So it's when you're coming forward with momentum, usually after striking, or attempting a strike, and then you crash into them and use your hips and your sort of hands as a cushion, but really your hips to crash into them, and often they'll kind of break their posture or move back a little bit, and that might create the chance for a strike. We also used it in kirikaishi. Often you do the men strike, and then with fumikomi, and then a taiatari in a sort of more advanced version of kirikaishi, taiatari, and the receiver will also do the taiatari. So you both do the taiatari, and the receiver receives it and starts to go back. It's not like a bash like this. The attacker does it, and then taiatari, and the receiver receives the taiatari and goes back, so that you can nicely do the flowing kirikaishi. So that's the taiatari, the body crash. Okay, Tsubazeriai is the position that players fight at very close distance, where the tsubas are locked together. Okay, so if you watch a video, it's not the bit where they crash together. It's the bit where they're sort of fighting at the close distance with the shinai crossed, with the tsubas locked together, and they're looking for the chance for a hikiwaza, which is a strike when they go back. Okay, so they're fighting here, and then pam this way often, or they might separate and go back to the normal distance. Okay, so that's the difference between Taiatari and Tsubazeriai. Okay, and in terms of Zoom classes, no, I don't have any more planned at the moment. I'm not sure. Okay, obviously everybody's getting back to Kendo, everybody's getting back in the dojo and practicing, so I'm not sure if it is something I'll go back to doing. I might do it again in the future at some point. It's a lot of time and effort and organization to do, so I'm not sure if it's really that necessary for everyone. You know, the idea was it was kind of something to do a bit whilst we weren't able to practice, so maybe. Okay, last one. Would you consider offering teniguri that are larger than normal for those of us with big heads? The normal ones aren't long enough for me to use the method where you tie across over your forehead. Okay. When you say where you tie across over your forehead, do you mean the one where you sort of go up and then you wrap it around the back like that, and then some people tie it in a little knot and then pull it up that way? In that case, I can understand why it's not long enough. But No. If you mean the normal way where you do this way, it's definitely long enough. It's definitely long enough. So if you're finding it too short to do this sort of normal way, then you just need a bit more practice at doing it. But if you're talking about the way where you wrap it around like that and then tie it and do it this way, then no, it's not likely that we'll do longer tenugri. The cost is just not there. All right, it's just too expensive for us to do that. Because they're a standard size. Yeah. I'd still say it's not, there's lots of people in Japan that do it that way. And if you find it too short, and, there's a lot of people with, let's say, large heads in Japan too, more so than in the West. If you're finding that it's too hard to do it that way, then go to the other way and do it the other way instead, is my recommendation. I think it's unlikely that you'll see longer tenugri on the market, to be honest. I'm afraid. It's just not viable with the way that, for us anyway, with the way that they're made and manufactured. Okay, so sorry about that. I'd just go back to doing it the normal way instead. Okay, that's it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed. We had some great questions there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, shop at Kendo Star, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.